If you live within a few hundred miles of either the Gulf Coast or the Atlantic Ocean, you could be affected by a hurricane. So the question becomes, do you need a generator? And if you do, how many generators are enough? We're going to try to answer that question for you. Even if you don't live in an area that could be affected by hurricanes, there's other situations that could require backup power. If you've ever seen an ice storm, you know that the tree limbs are going to break. They're going to bring the power lines down. Windstorms can do the same thing. In some areas out in the southwest prone to fires, that could be a problem as well. So although I'm focusing primarily on hurricane situations here with this video, this could apply to many different situations. Hurricane season is 6 months long. It runs from May 1st to November 30th. And when you stop and think about it, that's quite a long time. I have lived in the Florida Panhandle for just over 25 years. And during that time frame, we've had many storms. We've had, say 8 or 10 hurricanes within close proximity. But we've only had about 4 or 5 hurricanes that have really affected us severely. So what do I mean by severely? Well, I mean electrical power out for 8 days. One time it was out for 13 days. And that seems like a long time when you don't have air conditioning, you don't have hot water, you don't have lights. What do you do about charging your cell phones? What do you do about listening to the radio if you weren't prepared with batteries and things of that nature? So it really changes your lifestyle completely to the point where it does put you in a real crisis situation. So having some backup power is all about trying to minimize the crises, trying to keep your life as normal as possible without power from your power company. And you can do that relatively inexpensive with some good thought, some research, and just some preparation to be ready for those situations when they do happen. Now, we've all had the power to go out for a couple hours or 6 hours or maybe even overnight due to a minor storm or a car accident or something like that. And even with those short periods, it does change how you live for those short number of hours with no power. So if you're saying to yourself you live in a big city and you couldn't be affected, well, that's not really true. You can look at places like Houston, for example, and New Orleans, Tallahassee, Miami, Jacksonville, Florida, and even up the East Coast there along the Atlantic Ocean. If you live in a very urban area, maybe you live in a high-rise, then a generator is something that you could benefit from, but maybe you just can't store a generator. And that's understandable. It's unfortunate, but very understandable. I'll be making a future video that talks about alternate power sources without a generator and something that everyone, even the high-rise dwellers in major cities, could use to keep their life a little bit more on track without power. So stay tuned for that video. So let me describe how I use generators, and maybe you can apply some of that to your own situation. So there's 3 main things. 1 is refrigeration, keeping your food from spoiling. 2 is just lighting in your house and around your house. And 3 is cooling with either fans or air conditioning. Now, yes, you can run an air conditioner with a generator. So the primary thing is understanding how much power you will be consuming. And then you would want a generator that would provide that amount of wattage to run those things like your refrigerator, your fans, or maybe a small air conditioning unit. In order to understand what your needs are, you have to understand what each of those devices will be drawing. To understand what the power consumption for individual devices are, you'll need something like this Kilowatt Meter. These are relatively inexpensive for about 20 bucks. You can pick them up in a lot of places. The big box stores may have them. You can certainly get them online with just a quick search. This is called a kilowatt, but they do make others. And how this works is you can plug it into your wall, and then whatever device you're checking, plug it right into this meter. For example, if it's a light, plug it in, it'll tell you how many watts you're drawing. If it's a microwave, you can do the same thing. If you have an air conditioning unit, which is a 110, you can plug that in here and it'll tell you what the draw is on that. So this is really key in understanding what your power consumption would be. Additionally, most every electrical appliance and device is going to have a label on it somewhere that tells what the wattage usage is. So you can use that to get an understanding. What it might not tell you is something called surge. Any item that has a motor in it will need extra electricity, an additional wattage, in order to get started, and that's called a surge. So you may have an air conditioning unit or a refrigerator that takes, let's say, 300 to 500 watts to run, but it may need a surge of 700 or 800 watts just to get started. When shopping for generators, generators are classified by wattage, what wattage output they have. And most of them, they'll also indicate what the surge is. On this particular generator here, it's a 7,000 watt generator with a 8750 surge capacity. So it's giving you that extra short amount of time that you can exceed that 7,000 watts to get your device started. So to put this in better perspective, the first thing you want to do is understand what power consumption you need to back up. And then you'll come up with some wattage figure. Say it's 2,000 watts or 3,000 watts. If you get much more than 6,000 or 7,000 watts, you'll be getting in a very expensive situation. So understanding what your needs are, then you would shop for a generator that would meet those needs. Now these generators here are, this one is 25 years old, and this one is about 6 or 8 years old. Both of them still run perfectly. And they're what you might call a construction site kind of generator. They're very loud. They're all open around on the sides, so there's no soundproofing on these. But they are relatively inexpensive, or certainly affordable, I should say. Now other generators, like inverter generators, come closed in, and they're usually smaller, between 2,000 and 4,000 watts, and they're quite a bit more expensive. But what they do is they run much quieter, and they're lighter, where you can pick them up and carry them around. These two generators here need to be on wheels to move them around. So how do I specifically use these generators? Well, right now this is my primary generator I use to supplement the power in my home. It has a 7,000 watt capacity there, and I have a connection on my electrical meter on the house where I can plug this generator directly into my home. And I'm going to show you that here in just a moment. This generator over here, the one that is about 25 years old, it is now my backup generator, but it was my primary for a number of years. When Hurricane Aaron came through in about 1995, I had no generator. And I woke up that morning after the storm, and I had trees down everywhere, and I had no generator. So I got out and I cut the trees off of my driveway and immediately went down to Home Depot shopping for a generator. And this is very early in the morning. I got there and there was already a line of like 300 people waiting to get into the store. But I got in there and they had no generators on the floor, and I waited around and I was asking all of the associates about generators availability, and after a while there was some commotion off in the corner of the store, and I went over there and I was able to grab a generator that just came off of a truck. And I got this generator right here. At the time I thought it was kind of expensive, but I brought it home and used it for 13 days, every day, running about 18 hours to keep 2 refrigerators and a freezer going, in addition to some lighting and some fans in the home. This generator paid for itself the very first day that I got it. So this is a device made by GeneraLink. It's a collar that goes directly behind your electrical meter, and then it has a plug-in for a special cord that would go to your generator. And this would provide electricity to your breaker box of your house. It's one of the safest methods of using a generator to power your house. What is key here is to manage the amount of wattage that you're consuming in your home, and do not exceed the capacity of your generator. So I'm going to back out and show you how this is plugged in. And it plugs right into my 7,000 watt Honda generator. To use the GeneraLink, the first step would be to come to your breaker panel and shut off all of the breakers. And if you have breakers on the exterior of your house, which what you might have for your central air conditioning or maybe a heat pump, you'd want to also turn those breakers off as well. Once your generator is plugged into the house and it is turned on and running, you would come back to your breaker panel here and cut on only the breakers that are your essential power needs. Such as my case, I have the breakers marked for my 2 refrigerators and my freezer. I would start those individually and not at one time. As I mentioned earlier, those types of devices that have motors will have a power surge, so cut those on individually so you don't overrun your generator. And always use caution when you're using a generator. Keep it as far away from your house as you possibly can. Ensure that it's not close to any open doors or open windows. As you can see in this setup here, I have a cable which is about 20 feet long. I don't have it stretched out all the way here, but if it were running, I would have it stretched out all the way. You also want to keep your generator out of the rain, keep it covered in some way. What I use is a cheap patio table. Pick this up at Walmart or anywhere. Just set that over the top of your generator to keep it dry. And lastly, I have a generator in my RV. This is an Onan 5500. And the good thing about this generator is that it goes anywhere my RV does, and it powers both the air conditioners and the hot water, and of course the lights. And it's fueled by propane, whereas the other 2 generators you just saw are powered by, or I should say fueled by gasoline. So this does give me a little diversity of fuel. So in a real world situation, I could always bring my family out to the RV sitting next to the house, crank up this generator here and have hot showers, have air conditioning. As long as I had fuel, I'd be good to go in the RV. So have you answered the question yet? How many generators do you need? Well, in my case, I think I need 3. I need the one for my house, I need the one in my RV, and it always helps to have a backup such as this. Your case is going to be completely different. You may need 1, you may need more. But here's my recommendation. You saw what I used to plug into my house, that 7,000 watt Honda. That's not what I recommend you do. If you have natural gas available, I would recommend a whole house generator. A Generac or a similar brand that can power your entire home, including your air conditioning, and they are low maintenance and they are reasonable. But you do need to have a fuel source. Gasoline would not be good. Diesel would be an option, but the preferred method would be natural gas. If you already have that at your home, that's the way I would go. So get ready for hurricane season. It's just over 30 days away, and be as prepared as you can, and don't wait until the storm gets here to get out and start shopping for that generator. I have done that, and that is not a fun situation. So the thing is be proactive and not reactive. Well, I'm going to wrap up this video right here. I hope you got some value out of this. And if you did, click that like button. Share this video with your friends on social media. And if you haven't already done so, click the subscribe button. And until next time, thanks for watching.